Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total Protonic Reversal.
Protonic Reversal.
Protonic Reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
And take that away.
You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic Reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
That's right. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It is a scientific fact. Then we are all up in your face. It is time for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. Tonight, returning guest, but returning after a length of time that's been about the same amount of time between releases, I would say. Mr. Scott Evans of Kowloon Walled City, Anti-Sleep Audio, fantastic engineering producer, etc., etc. I'm not going to waste time. I'm just going to get right into it. We got a lot to cover, not the least of which includes this really awesome benefit record. You know what? We'll talk about it in a minute. So thanks for joining us, and let's talk to Mr. Scott Evans. And we're here with none other than Mr. Scott Evans. Scott, welcome back to the show, man. It's been a while. It's been a long while.
It has.
It's great to have you. And, you know, God, like civilizations have risen and fell in the past 6 months, but I feel like there's a lot to report on and a lot to start with. But, I mean, let's just get right down to it that the split with Shallow, North Dakota is a kind of incredible thing, and I'm really excited about it. And I think it's a really, really cool thing. Maybe not for the best reasons, but could you tell us a little bit about that? It just came out at the time of this recording, like really recently, like last week.
Yeah. So Shallow, North Dakota, did you know who they were before this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, in my experience, they're a well-kept secret. They're from Hamilton, I think, Ontario, and just an incredible, burly, gnarly, sort of, noise rock band, I guess, but so heavy. And so, like the sort of post-helmet, like, so a friend of mine gave me one of their records in the late 90s, and it just blew my mind. And then their next record, and then eventually they did a third one years later called Mob Wheel. It just, like the Indiana Jones scene with your face melting off, like that was me. And it's really been an important record to me since. And I got to know the guys a little bit in the intervening time. They're Canadian, they're sweet as hell. They're they're just dudes in a band that, happened to, make its way to me on the East Coast and follow me to the West Coast as like just this awesome, important band to me. So that's like kind of the background, and they're not really active anymore. They played a few shows a couple of years ago. People in the band have gone on to do other things. Cursed is probably the one that people know the best. But lots of other bands too, all good. And Tony, the singer and drummer from Shallow, 3 weeks ago, I think it was January 10th or 9th, his wife posted something on Facebook that said, hey, and, tagged him. That's the only reason he's never on the internet. And she said, hey, I don't know how to say this, but Tony just was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And from what I understand, pancreatic cancer is one of those ones that's, my mom's a nurse, and so for talking to her, it's often symptom free until a later stage in the disease. And
if I remember right, I think that's what Bill Hicks died of, and I think it was like the same thing where they're like, "Oh my God!" Like it was a left field thing. Like it came out of aware.
So at the time that she posted it, I'm sure it was like a freight train to them. I mean, he's in his early 40s. They have 2 young kids, kindergarten age and younger kids. And she posted a really strong, but, stunned thing about it. And as sometimes happens with this stuff, the internet kind of spun into motion. Someone started a GoFundMe. It raised a lot of money, which was really great to see. And that day, I mentioned it to our band, and Ian, our bass player, said, "Hey, do we still have that Shallow, North Dakota cover that we did years ago? And did you ever do vocals for it? And is there anything we could do with that?" And I was like, "We do still have it, and I did do vocals for it, but I don't know what we can do with it to make money." As if you're gonna 7 inches don't make money, for instance.
Yes,
I'll
back that.
Yeah, I mean they're cool to release and they're great to own and all, but they're you have to sell them for so little that they're kind of a break-even proposition.
Yeah, if that's your idea of a benefit, you better think of another idea, because it's not gonna.
Yeah. So anyway, I mentioned to Biff, the bass player from Shallow, that we were thinking about doing something, and I said, "You guys don't happen to have any leftover tracks laying around, do you?" And he said, "You know what we do? We have a song left over from the Mob Wheel session that's never been released." And I was like, "Wait, what? Like, first of all, why didn't I know this?"
Yeah, it's like this is like inside intel that you would be like, "Hey, I would have reacted differently if I would have known."
Stalker American fan, I feel like I was entitled to this information.
First of all, how dare you?
And number 2, would you guys be interested in doing a split? And he was like, "Yes, we would." And then I don't know how I ended up talking to Jesse from Ken Mode, but we mentioned all this, and he said, "Could we get on this?"
Yeah,
because he is the only person I know who is a fellow huge Shallow
North Dakota super fan.
Yes, as a matter of fact, when they were on tour, Ken Mode, a number of years ago, they were playing, I think, the Elbow Room in San Francisco, and he said, "Hey, here, you might like this," and he gave me this apparatus, must be Earthed LP. He was carrying like a box of them on tour to give people, mega fan. So, and I love Ken Mode. I've loved them forever. So he said, "Can we get on this?" And I said, "Yeah, what do you want to do?" Because we had talked a while ago about turning this cover that we did into like a tribute or something like that and having him do vocals on it. And that never materialized. And he said, "I think Shane and I can record something this weekend."
Oh, damn.
And I said, "Really?" All right. And sure as shit, they
that's ambitious. Okay.
they're machines, dude. So they threw together covers of 2 Shallow songs from different records and banged them out in a weekend. And he sent me a rough mix on Monday. He's like, "How's this?" And it was fucking sick.
Yeah.
And we were off and running. So we got in touch with Sean Pearson, who is the guy who recorded Mob Wheel. I've actually mixed a few records that he has engineered since, so we know each other. And we got Sean Arsenian, who is in a band called The Great Sabatini.
Yep.
And he's got a new band called Cell Press. And those are both records that I mixed. So I've known Sean before that, but he recorded them with Sean
spend
Pearson.
some quality time with that dude in Montreal. Quality,
bro.
Oh,
okay, yeah. Also Canadian and polite, right?
Yeah.
But in gnarly bands. And
exactly.
Also artist. So Sean,
all the gnarliness comes out in the music.
Yeah. Sean, would you be interested in doing artwork for this? And like the next day, he sends us the cover that it is basically done. He's like, "I just kind of threw this together. How's this?" And we're like, "That's pretty good. Can you change the way the type looks a little bit?" And that was it. I hit up Carl Saff. I said, "Carl, would you be interested in mastering this very quickly? Time is of the essence." Carl donated his services and said, "Absolutely." Turned us around a master in a day. And it was like 16 days from idea to split release.
That's bonkers. I mean, that's wonderful, but that's bonkers.
It's bonkers. And, we haven't ordered records yet. So I had to say to everyone, listen, records are very backed up right now.
It's an uncertain time for making vinyl, for sure.
Yeah,
it's
for sure. And you definitely will get a record, but Jesse and I are going to be mailing them out ourselves, and it could be 4 or 6 months before they show up from the pressing plant. But please, consider this like a GoFundMe where the record is a bonus. Like, it's not.
Well, right. Yeah. The thing isn't the point. The point is to not only raise money, but just show that you care as well. And that, like, this meant something, that this larger, this music and life of this guy has meant so much to so many people and has connected so many people that it's, like, important.
Yeah. And I think, it's during this, as a person with a family and roughly similar in age and all, I've thought about Tony's situation a lot, and where the tables turned, I don't know, I'd be thinking about my family a lot and not about this stuff a lot. But I hope, in the little bit I've spoken to him, they've been blown away by this. And I hope he does know, like, I'm not hassling him too much because he's obviously got bigger shit on his mind, but I hope he feels the love. All the messages that I've gotten from people have been really, really beautiful. Yeah. And one of the nice things is a lot of people, since Shallow was a band 20 years ago, they're not on Spotify, they are on Bandcamp. This has turned on a whole bunch of people to that band that had never heard them before.
That never maybe had the opportunity or never even, like, knew necessarily.
Yeah, and they're all like, holy fucking shit. This is amazing, because it absolutely holds up. So Shallow, they are also donating all their Bandcamp sales to the Tony and Family Fund. So, the music spreads, and also a few more dollars get raised.
And even if, like, the money isn't necessarily the point, it's still nice to be able to throw, a good amount of it at it, as well as, feeling the love, maybe. I mean, and I remember.
But from what I understand from Cheryl, and again, I haven't even spoken to Cheryl, Tony's wife, but the stuff that she has mentioned, they're going to be, this is going to be her full-time job, is, helping Tony deal with this,
take care of them
and taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
They're going to be staying, in a hotel or an Airbnb near the cancer treatment facility they're in, all kinds of stuff. And they are in Canada, so the medical care situation is different than if it was the US, but
it's a little less brutalist than it is in the US. Yeah.
Yeah. So the money is,
I don't know why I'm laughing at that. It's horrific, but whatever.
Yeah. But the money does help. Like, I think if we sell 500 records, we're keeping no money. I forget the math we did, but it was like, I don't know, $8,000 or $9,000 or something like that.
Yeah,
that's not insignificant. And a few $1,000s of digital sales also. That is enough to make a difference, I think, for however long.
Well, certainly, and it's something where, like you mentioned, it kind of allows for an entry point for people to know the art as well. So it serves multiple purposes. I mean, I was blown away by how quickly it came together, and that's, I'm no stranger to putting things together quickly, but I mean, it's cool to see. Like, it was, and then also we haven't even had a Bandcamp day since then, too, right? So I know that, like,
that's right. We talked about waiting. This Friday is a Bandcamp day, and we thought about waiting. And again, you're trying to raise money. Like with our band, we can kind of put art first a little bit. If it breaks even, great. But in this one particular case, it was like, man, we really, like, the bottom line really matters. And we went back and forth about the Bandcamp day, and we were all just so amped on getting this done so quickly that we decided to release it. But yes, this is a Bandcamp Friday coming up, and I think some people are saving their purchase for then, and that's great too. I don't begrudge Bandcamp getting paid. They're the only good streaming company, so
the only one worth a damn. I mean, I personally, I haven't picked it up yet, but that's largely due to the fact that it's like, also part of it's Bandcamp day is also like, oh yeah, that's also payday. So that's key also, because I want to be in on it, but it's not like It's not like the game stops stock. It isn't tied to a timeline really necessarily.
Right.
Is how I
Well,
looked at
at
it.
some point, pretty soon we're going to stop orders because we have to order vinyl, and there
You have
will
to
be
know
no
what to make.
repress.
Sure.
So we'll order a little bit of overage just because you know how to do the vinyl. You don't know the exact number you're going to get, and sure we'll sell. So we'll order some over, but at some point pretty soon we're going to say that's it. Definitely.
Well, and that's
after
when
Bandcamp Friday.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, because I wanted to, do whatever small part I could to get the message out about this, which I think is the coolest thing. Just the coolest thing. Like, again, the rare example of the internet being good.
Yeah, it's great. I think what you said is exactly right. This is a really unfortunate circumstance, but it is nice to remember that, like, this sort of weird, misfit group of people who make music that 300 people hear a year, can still accomplish stuff together. And that really is pretty cool. I felt great to be able to get a couple of music friends like Carl and Sean, involved, and just see how quickly they could turn around, really great work. And
it looks like something that had been planned for like months longer than it was, for sure. Yeah. Like, and I mean, that's a compliment.
Or at least days longer, like hours longer. Like,
right. Yeah. Well, and like I was thinking about it. I think like when I first heard of Shallow, North Dakota, it was the old Yahoo groups, the International Noise Rock Underground, which is, let's charitably say, a while ago.
The 1940s, yeah.
Yeah, back in the 1940s, exactly. I think, FDR was a fresh-faced young fellow. And it's one of those things where unless you're someone that knows and is kind of like searching it out, for all the reasons you mentioned, just because they're if you consider Spotify like a discovery mechanism rather than, a music delivery system, I think that may be the better way to do it. But then I think about, I had Alex Newport on not that long ago, and it's like, oh, there's like one Theory of Ruin EP on like Spotify, and like that's it. And I, whatever, I own the CD, so I'm good. But it's like one of those things where it's like, oh wow.
Are there any Fudge Tunnel records on Spotify? There might be.
Fudge Tunnel, there's I think the records are there, and there's like a live show.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So Fudge Tunnel was actually pretty well represented, but it's interesting to me just what is and isn't on these services, and how it, for a lot of people, it just doesn't exist if it isn't on these services now.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that Shallow, North Dakota sort of fell a little bit into that category, but then also, if you are someone that knows to look on Bandcamp for something, then you can, hey, look, here's the stuff, cool, that's awesome. But you have to be someone that knows to look for it, really. In that way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they are talking about getting their discography on Spotify. Jesse's been talking to them about that. Jesse is very, do you know Jesse Mathewson?
Yes. Yeah.
He's got a lot of energy.
Yeah.
You just gotta kind of like, he's like, hey, we're happy to participate in this split. By the way, have you considered this and this and this and that? I'm like, holy crap, Jesse! I can barely.
Whoa, slow down.
Yeah, he's definitely a force of nature, and so he's, as a huge mega fan of Shallow, North Dakota. I believe he's trying to nudge those guys to get their stuff online so people can hear it, and they can make those sweet half cents.
Yeah, the big dozen airs, exactly.
That's right.
Well, and I think it's interesting too that you had that song sitting around like for so long. I mean, that's like what, 10 years or something that you had that sitting around or something like those lines?
10 years.
Yeah. Which I realize Kowloon sort of measures things in epochs, I know. So it's like, okay, that's like Cretaceous era, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that to me feels like we recorded it last week.
Right.
What happened is Thou asked us to be on a split 10 years ago, and we recorded 2 covers. One that was a little ambitious, which was a low cover, and then we had like the safety one, which was like, let's do this like real swingy, gnarly rocker, which we know that we can do
right down the line. Sure.
Yeah, and will be fun to play. And if the ambitious one falls on its face, we have something to fall back on and not blow it on the split. But it turned out that we got a friend of mine, Lisa Papineau, to sing the low song, and she is an unbelievable singer, and it came out great.
Yeah, that's. I was gonna say that it ended up turning out awesome. So that worked out.
Yeah,
pretty
it
well.
turned out great. Like, and funny enough, the Shallow, North Dakota cover was harder than we thought because the vocals are so tough.
Yeah.
Tony, you don't realize until you try and sing it. I guess unless you're Jesse, because he sounds amazing. But he's just like I mean, if you've ever seen the dude, he is a wall of a human, and he just sounds like that. He's so many, like, you know, me lyrically, I'm usually pretty sparse, and no, that thing is like a swinging rock song full of words, and they are all delivered, you know, full tilt.
Right, exactly.
So
none of them are like
hard to do. And it's been sitting around. Yeah, it's been sitting around for 10 years, and you know, I just figured one of these days we'd release like the anthology of dead ends kind of.
Yeah, the odds and sods record. Yeah, sure.
Like here's all the crap that we never, you know, and that would be on it. But this turns out to be a great home for it. So that's pretty cool.
It's almost an ideal situation for something like this, right? Because and to have something just ready, locked, and loaded is fantastic. I mean, that's
Well, we definitely could not have turned something around in a weekend like Ken Mode did. So yeah.
Not everyone can be Ken Mode, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and what can you tell me about that? Because there is a Shallow, North Dakota song on there, like that's like leftover from like previous,
Mob Wheel, yeah. So I
from
guess
previous record, yeah.
Mob Wheel is already, it's a double LP. It is all, you know, it's got a lot of pretty long songs on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that isn't exactly a Minuteman record as far as song length.
No, and I'm guessing they just like, I never even asked. I'm guessing they just ran out of space. You know, it was like,
logistically,
the double LP is all we got.
Yeah.
They said, yeah, we got this other song. We were talking about doing a 7-inch, and they were like, well, it's 9 minutes long, or 10 minutes long. We could cut it down to 9. And I said, oh,
yeah, we should judicious editing and get it down to 9. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. We joked about doing a 7-inch at 16 RPM, which Sonics aside would have been pretty cool, but we didn't do it. So yeah, the split is a 12-inch actually, which is kind of funny for 3 songs. And you know, you always wonder with a B-side like that, like, is it going to be like a filler kind of?
Yeah, half-formed idea.
No, it's
dead end alley.
It would have fit, you know, right on the record. Like,
it seemed pretty rad to me. I was like, whoa, cool. You know, I mean, the first thing I saw was like, you know, the news, which is like, whoa, not cool. And then I was like, with the song, I was like, oh, whoa, cool.
Yeah, the song is sick. I mean, so Pearson, the dude who recorded that, a few years ago when Sean Arsenian hit me up to mix the Great Sabatini record that Pearson was recording, for me, that was like, you know, winning the Scratchers or something. I was like, holy shit, I get to mix a record that the Mob Wheel dude recorded, you know, and there's probably like 2 other people on the planet who would be stoked about that. I felt like I was winning a trophy. Like,
yeah.
And then I immediately just started punishing the hell out of Sean about like the details of the Mob Wheel session. I was like, do you have pictures? Like, can you tell me anything, you know? And to him, it's just like this record he did 20 years ago. He's on, you know, he's got a really nice studio in Canada. He's been doing records since. So I think he was a little bit like, what's up with the Punisher? Eh?
Yeah, exactly.
But he was awesomely cool about it. And I think, you know, he does understand that like sometimes records just grab you, you know, and that is the case for me. Like that record for me is magic, and it sounds magic. It sounds fucked. It is so burly and gnarly, and it just sounds like everything is catching on fire. And so I was just kind of trying to like get that out of him, but mostly I got sort of funny anecdotes and stuff. One of these days, you know, in the after times, I'll get up to his spot to record something, and then it's all over for that guy. I'm going to follow him around with a tape recorder and just be like,
yeah,
you remember anything else about the guitar mics you used? You know,
the recording itself will be ancillary to the chapbook that you're putting together of
that's absolutely the oral history as told by one punished Canadian.
Well, but I think it's something where you know, this kind of music, however you want to, whatever bin you want to put it into in the record store of your mind, I guess, it means so much to the people that it means so much to. And that's something that, you know, that's great. That's not something that, like, you know, unless someone's like really in a bad mood, they're never going to be bummed out about that. You know, it's like, oh, this has a deep connection with someone for, you know, reasons A through Z. But what matters is that you get to experience things in a way that I just can't imagine your average Train fan experiences things. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, it's possible that your average Train fan has another community that they build things with that is special to them. And
absolutely.
I think that is, that's the thing that I, you know, as I've gotten older, realized is like, I'm so fortunate to have gotten hooked by music when I was a kid. And, you know, basically all my close friends are musicians, all the people I stay in touch with. And I stay in touch with a million people who are musicians, and we always have stuff to talk about, and we're always working on things and sometimes working on them together. And if that's your life, it's easy to forget that for a lot of people, they don't have something like that. And, you know, like, it gets harder to make friends as you get older and all this kind of stuff. But like, for me, because I kind of have this built-in, you know, life love that a lot of other people do, it's been like a through line for my entire adult life. And I just think it's really, really lucky, and you couldn't plan for it. But I hope that the people you're talking about who just think music is like, you know, content you consume, I hope they
have another thing. Maybe it's macrame or something.
I hope they build motorcycles together, or I hope they, you know, have a sculpture studio, or I don't know. I hope they're photographers. I hope, you know, something like just having. I love making things. I love making things with my friends. It's just that's my favorite thing in the world. And music happens to be the thing that I spent the most time trying to figure out how to make.
Well, and Scott, have you noticed the thing where you can just sort of pick up with someone that you haven't talked to in like years, and it's like no time at all has passed? Like, it's something where you just pick right back up.
Yeah, I mean, usually people describe their best friends that way. Like, oh, so-and-so is my best friend in high school. We never see each other now. But when we do, it's like, you know, but yeah, like Ben, Adrian, your former bandmate, is a great example. Like, Ben and I don't see each other that much now. But when we do, you know, or another funny example is my friend Greg Thompson, who I went to high school with and is a recording nerd just like me. He was sort of one of my mentors. Whenever I talk to him, my wife is like, so how's his kids? How's his family? I'm like, I don't know. We talked about microphones, you know,
no idea. We only talked about guitars for like 20 minutes.
You know, it's just like a natural you know, like if you see someone every day, you know, that stuff is always in your head, but you don't necessarily catch up on it. You talk about all this other shit. And that's the nice part about this stuff, I guess. It's really, really lucky.
So when did you relocate to the Bay Area? Was that 2005, 2006, somewhere around that neighborhood? Is that track?
Yes. No, it was 2000. It was like, the beginning of 2005.
Okay. And because you're an East Coast dude originally, right? Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what led you to relocate to the kind of before the current .com era, but sort of like right on the cusp Bay Area during that time? Weird time to kind of be moving, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was two things. Well, it was one thing. Basically what happened was my son was born in September of the year before. And there's a long story short is that I have a computer science degree. I've been a programmer all my life. And we lived outside of DC, and I was working for a bunch of DC-like companies. Mm-hmm. And it just wasn't what I saw myself doing as a programmer. I wanted to work on, I didn't even know what the word was for it. What I call it was software people use, which the right word for that is consumer software, I think. I don't know, but everything I was doing.
I kind of like that description better, though. That description's much better.
Say it like you're 4 years old. And and I spent a long time looking for that around DC, and all my jobs always ended up being, you know, government contractors or contractors to government contractors, that kind of thing. And I was carrying my 2-day-old son around, just kind of talking to him, you know, so that he would get used to hearing my voice, I think.
Yeah.
And I realized I was saying, like, hey, you know, I hope you, when you're older, you find something you really love doing and you don't have to, you know, put up with bullshit every day. And, you know, and I was like, who am I talking to here? And I basically wanted to move to San Francisco for, I don't know, years, because I visited once or twice and it just immediately grabbed me as this amazing place. And, and also because I thought I could get, you know, cooler jobs there.
It was like the place for that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, so. You know, .com shit aside, like it just seemed like that was where interesting technology happened. So, and certainly where consumer stuff happened. So I said to Brady, I was like, hey, what if we moved to San Francisco? You know, literally our son was like 4 days old or something. And Brady is always down for like a stupid adventure. Like that's her sweet spot. Like I'm a very conservative sort of, you know, like measure 10 times and cut once kind of person. And she's totally like ready, fire, aim. And so she was like, fuck yeah, let's go. And we did it. We 3 months later with our 3-month-old, we had moved to San Francisco and I found a job. And we got a little bit settled and I started looking for bands to join. And I met Ben via Craigslist.
Yep.
Tried jamming with him once or twice and it didn't really work out, but we hit it off. I met Ian Miller via Craigslist. And we tried jamming once or twice and it didn't really work out. I met Phil Becker, who was in Triclops a little bit after that. And we tried
Lower 48, the much missed Lower 48.
Along. Yeah. Yep. And those people are my best friends now. And, you know, and I did find jobs writing software that people use. So really like that move, I got to thank my son for that. It was out of character for me and just the best thing we've ever done with our life, you know?
Yeah.
Just, you know, musically and job wise. And I think for Brady too, job wise, I just can't imagine what it would be like when I go back and visit DC, you know, if we still live there. It just was not the place for us.
Well, it seemed like you had, however, you know, articulating it to the child or not, you had a vision built up in your head, whether you realize it or not. And you were able to achieve that just by kind of knowing what was lacking.
That's an interesting, I don't know. I think I just circle things a lot before I do them, and to a fault, I think. And, you know, they say that having a child is like one of those, it's like losing a parent, or I don't know, the short list of things are these huge shocks to your system, getting a divorce, that kind of thing. Like it's a more positive one than the ones I just listed, but they're often the kind of things that cause
it upends
people to
your
make like a
worldview.
dramatic life change. You know, like someone gets divorced and all of a sudden they lose 80 pounds and, you know, like whatever, like that kind of thing. And I think the shock to the system of him being born was what my brain needed to be like, this doesn't need to be this way.
Right. So then how do you end up? So originally you played with Ian and you said it didn't really work out. I actually remember the Kowloon Walled City origin story, but for the listeners, could you please sort of articulate how it all came to pass, how you came to start playing in the Tenderloin, just those early days for Kowloon?
I think that was, I mean, that almost was the origin story. Like Ian and I tried jamming a 2-bass thing. And I think we actually jammed once with Phil Becker. And Phil was like, that sucked. And and I was like, yeah, that wasn't great. And I think then I met Jeff Fagundes via Craigslist also. We jammed once or twice with me playing bass and him playing. We were like talking about maybe doing like a big business kind of thing, or, you know.
Godhead Silo, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, just like a, you know, I don't know. But then my wife got pregnant with our second son. And I kind of disappeared for a while and spent, I guess, some time playing guitar during that downtime, and then hooked back up with Jeff. And I started recording bands just a little bit. And I recorded, do you remember this band, Lord Godbird?
Oh, wow.
It's okay to say no.
No. I remember being blown away by the name more than anything else. I was like, wow, that's some name.
Yeah. So that band, I recorded them in their practice space, and it was like their going away EP because someone was moving, or I don't remember what, but they were breaking up. And in that band was Jason Pace and Ian. And I was like, hey, I'm trying to get this heavy thing going with this guy, Jeff. Would you guys be interested? And they said, sure, we'll try it. And they came down, and we had a couple songs written. And I said, the influences are Godflesh and Unsane and Shallow, North Dakota. And I'm sure you can find some interview 12 years ago where I said exactly that. It was always true. And
that's the best thing about telling the truth. You don't have to remember it.
Yeah. And it worked out pretty great from the get. And we spent a long time practicing at Turk and Taylor in the Tenderloin, and we recorded a couple records there. That's where we did the Turk Street EP, and where we did Gambling on the Richter Scale, and it's also where we did these. I think the songs for this split were the last thing we recorded there. We did another split with Fight Amp a little bit later.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And Ladder Devils that we recorded at Sharkbite. And that was one of the first things I did at Sharkbite. And that was sort of like an important moment for me where I was like, you know what, I should be doing this more. This being recording in good studios, because it was really better. Because
there's, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to talk about the difference between, you can make a lot of interesting and cool recordings like in a glorified practice space situation for sure, but you don't have the resources that you have for a larger studio, and it kind of takes some crayons out of the crayon box, almost, so to speak, is how I would characterize it. Maybe you disagree.
I was gonna start talking, but then I realized that you might be getting to a question before it. Is there a question or should I just talk?
No, this is probably doing. This is probably doing the videos. I saw you react to that, and I was like, oh. But
yeah.
So, what would you say were the things that you kind of found that you're like, yeah, this is the thing that I've been missing, recording the practice space versus doing it in a big studio? Was it like drums? Was there anything specific? Was it just an overall feel?
I think there were two things. One is, the drums, it's just easier to make drums sound big and good. I was a little spoiled, in the case of our band, because Jeff is he's just a great drummer. He just is one of these people that the way he hits, you can't make it sound bad. You can hang like a SM57 over his drum kit and use that, and it would still sound great. He just hits really, really well. But drums in a big, nice room, it's a different thing. But the other main big thing, honestly, was like, if you're sitting in a practice space and you're the recording engineer and you're supposed to be thinking and listening and, staying organized, and you've got a fucking, jet engine pointed at your head for 8 hours.
Right. Yeah.
While you're doing guitar overdubs or whatever, it's miserable, and it's really hard to think, and it's not great for your hearing. And there's lots of other limitations. I had to pack up. I had like a big checklist because I had to pack up my car with my whole studio every time. You can't go, if you forget a cable for your laptop, you're dead in the water. And this was in San Francisco, where getting across town, was like an hour if you forgot something. So
it's like Oregon Trail.
Yeah, it was just, so you had to be really prepared and have backups of your backups. And that is fun and adventurous. And and it was fun to go back, and I remixed the song pretty quickly. And it was fun to go back and hear those tracks that we recorded 10 years ago and be like, interesting. Cause I'm a better mix engineer now, I think. And I think the mix came out great. It's fine, came out great. Yeah. So the quality of the recording in the end, I think I could make a pretty good record in a practice space, but do I want to make 20 of those a year? Not really, just because it's really exhausting and sort of punishing on your brain and your body.
Well, and especially I think you hit on something important too with like loud bands, right? You know, I'm sure if you're recording ukuleles and flutes or whatever, like maybe you don't have the same exact thing, but you're going to get ear fatigue, right? And that's
oh god, I mean it's like everything fatigue. It's so but you know the truth is like I mean short of a band that is just ukuleles and flutes, every band is loud. You know, all drums are loud. Yeah. And even like a 15 watt, you know, Fender amp is loud. Like it's, So to be able as a recording engineer to sit in a control room and, you know, and sit there and listen to the speakers while the band is playing and say, all right, we need to fix this and this. It's just really nice. And, you know, it's the kind of thing it took about 10 minutes to get used to. And then you go back and you're like, no, I don't, okay, whoa, this sucks, you know, like.
It's like going back to in the Wizard of Oz, going back to the black and white in Kansas, right?
yeah I mean, and the truth is like I could still, you know, I feel very scrappy. Like if you wanted to record a record all in a practice space for no budget tomorrow, like let's do it. I still have it in me for sure. Right. I'm happy to sleep on the floor of your practice space every night. It's all fine. But you know, all things considered, if you're going to do it 20 times a year to, you know, have an environment that's built for it and is comfortable for the band, it's nice.
Well, because I think you hit on something important there too. It's also like, how does the band feel about what's happening, right? Is there additional stress going on because of the environment is just stressful, right?
Yeah.
You know, is my car going to be okay where I parked it? You know, like whatever, you know?
Yeah. Or can I even park? You know?
Exactly. Can I park somewhere and actually, you know, be able to get to where I need to go? Yeah.
So, you know, not having to worry about that stuff is nice. And I don't think we're talking about stuff that's super dainty. I think it's just like, you know, it's nice to not have to worry about that shit and be able to think only about like, you know,
concentrating on being creative, like getting a good take. And
or show and be like, right, I got to change my strings today, you know, like as opposed to being like, fuck, I forgot to change my strings because I was so worried about parking, you know, or whatever. Like just little stuff like that. So, you know, again, the practice space thing is cool and fun. And I think it taught me a lot of stuff about being fast and mobile. So I've done a bunch of like, you know, live recordings and same rig that I would use in someone's practice space, basically. And it's helpful. And I think every recording you do teaches you stuff. But, you know, not having to try and do vocal takes while there's like a doom band playing on either side of you.
Like,
it's fine.
Okay, hold on. Let him finish this song. Okay, go.
I just recorded anyway, usually, you know, like
right. It's character.
Like container ships. We did the container ships basics at Sharkbite, but I still did all the vocals at Turk Street. And
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. That was before I had this space. You know, it was just like we rented Sharkbite, and then if you need to do overdubs, where do you do them? And many nights there was weird Turk Street shit going on in the surrounding practice spaces. And I'm sure if I go back and solo up those vocals now, it's like, wow, there is an entire other band playing
right
in the vocal mic.
You got like a Jethro Tull cover band like bleeding in, like oh wow, sounding good on this one.
There was one band directly to our left that we called like Riffosaur or something like that, and they were like, you know, just big like riff rock, really fucking loud, you know, just like Beardo riff rock. And then there was like a weirdo old dude's poker night kind of cover band, you know, just butchering Brown Eyed Girl and shit like that at like 2 a.m, you know, like just like what the hell. And I think both of them probably make appearances in the background of that record.
Right.
So that was kind of like Container Ships was the one I think where and the first Tygon record where those was the first things I did at Sharkbite, and they were sort of me realizing like, this is better, and I think there's a lot more for me to learn here about making things sound better, and those were really important things for me as a recording engineer for sure.
Have there been any strategies or practices that you put into place for just making a band like feel comfortable with doing what they're meant to do? Like, I mean, has there been anything that you've developed that's like unique to you?
I mean, you know me, and I think I'm not great at making people comfortable. I don't think that's my skill. That's awkward.
No, but I mean, like,
no, I mean, like, I am a dude who plays in bands, and I think hopefully I am now technically competent enough that there's, the technical stuff should be fairly transparent, to a band. Like, I can get sounds ready while you guys are playing and just getting comfortable in the room. I can, we'll be like, hey, we're ready to record. And everyone's like, oh, really? So I've had a lot of bands say after sessions, like, wow, that was the least painful session I've really ever done. And that's the greatest thing possible to hear. The record may or may not sound, the greatest ever or whatever, but for a band to walk out and say that,
great.
I think I would take that over like someone whose record came out sounding amazing, but they were like, he fucking made me cry, and I'm still mad about it.
Right.
But there's no specific strategy for that, I think, other than, being on the band side and not, I know some engineers who have developed like it's me against the band sort of attitude. The band is just out to subvert the process. And I've never thought about it that way. I've always thought we're in this together. You want to make an awesome record. I want to make an awesome record. You might not know all the why an idea is a good idea or a bad idea because you don't make a million records a year. You make one record every 2 years.
Right. It's not because of your taste or anything. It's just that it's something you're not doing all the time.
Because you're like here to, you're here to try and torpedo the whole session. It's just because this seems like a cool idea or you read about it or something like that. So, I don't know, just being able to kind of make the technical stuff happen, mostly in the background, process things in parallel, while someone is like, I'm going to change my snare drum head, set up for the vocal, stuff like that. So things keep moving, but there's not a lot of downtime. It's just lots of little things.
I always appreciated that you have a pretty heroic, cool amp collection. Like, it's sort of like, if nothing else, people can kind of nerd out and be like, whoa, check out, oh, this is so awesome. That's this one, oh, cool, awesome. And that's an immediate icebreaker for a lot of people,
Bands, a lot of bands, not all bands, but a lot of bands, you can always talk about gear. Like, you can always, I love talking about it, so I can just be like, hey, what is that guitar you're playing? And there's always a story, it's like, oh yeah, my dad gave this to me, but then I sold it and then I bought it back, or, there's always something like that. And I love that shit.
Yeah.
So yeah. And the truth is, like, every amp in that fucking room, there's a story like that for everyone.
There's a crazy story behind it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The amp collection is funny because, like, when I moved into this space and out of my basement, Matt Bayless was like, cool, get ready to start acquiring a ton of shit. And I was like, no, dude, that's not going to happen. Like, he's like, yeah, you can say that, but I'm telling you, once you have room,
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. And yeah, when I look back at pictures of this place 5 years ago and now, it's like, oh yeah, okay, wow. It's not
but that said,
expensive, it's just that you can, like, your bargain hunting can be justified in another way. You're like, it's like, well, if I just had a basement, I wouldn't buy a fifth, Marshall, but you never know when a band's going to want this specific year, whatever. You can fucking convince yourself of anything.
Yeah. The specious logic of gas, gear acquisition syndrome. Well,
I always hated that term.
Yeah. The only reason I use it is because it is acronym for gas, which I think is funny.
I think that's the reason I don't like it. I think the word gas, I don't know.
Okay.
It's an internet term. It's fine. It's just, I don't know why it always bothered me.
It's okay that we don't all agree on the same thing. It's all right.
No, it's fine. I'm not mad.
When you have a personal story behind each thing, though, do you feel like that makes it like harder to even like think about letting go? Like, oh, I can't let go of that one. That's the one that,
yes,
I found at a flea market and traded 2 bowling balls for, whatever.
Yes. definitely. Or like, I know I don't use this a lot now, but I will never find one again. That kind of thing. Or I'll never, if I find one, I'll never let myself buy it again. And I know like Kurt Ballou, he's like never sell gear, just, but, and you can tell if you look at his library.
I was gonna say, just build a fortress out of it, apparently.
Yeah, but for me, I do try and, I've tried to be somewhat pragmatic about it. And if something's not getting used, sell it to someone who will hopefully use it and use that money to buy something that you will use. Like, to me, the perfect piece of gear is something that you can grab with confidence. Like, I know this, like an SM7, like it's always going to work. It's always going to sound pretty good. You just, and there's other things, there's other compressors or, amps or whatever.
Does the thing it's supposed to do, which is,
an
undervalued thing in this world.
It sounds good sometimes, and other times it's kind of shitty. And
if you angle it this way and like the moon is in the, this right place.
Yeah, and the right singer, but yeah, like the ideal thing is like, man, this just, so if I can, even if something is like has a great story, but it's, too weird, like I like to think that,
For the audio listeners, there was just a very pronounced looking around the room effect that Scott just did, looking at what was around.
Just trying to taking
stock.
Mental inventory of if what I'm saying is true or not. That doesn't matter.
I wonder if you wouldn't mind getting a little more specific on some of the Kowloon records. We more kind of pivoted the conversation into just recording in the small rooms and things along those lines. But just, you don't have to be a brief history of time or anything, but just about each of the records, like the making of it, some of the songs, any specific remembrances you might have, trivia, et cetera, starting with Turk Street, which is, start from the beginning.
Let's see.
No pressure.
Turk Street was a long time ago.
I know that's why we're starting with the hardest one first, and it'll get easier as time goes on.
Turk Street was supposed to be a demo, and we just set up in the practice space. We set up in the practice space. We, maybe put a few blankets over things. I don't even remember, and recorded everything live, and did the vocals there, and that was that. And then when I mixed it, we all kind of looked at each other and we were like, hey, this came out pretty good.
Does not sound like a practice space recording, like at all.
Yeah, like we get, this came out pretty good. I think we could probably just release this. And we released it ourselves on the little label that I sort of quote unquote label that I had on a 10-inch. And that was really smart. I think, it was, that record wasn't going to get any better. There was no reason to have a demo, and having a record instead of, nothing was, at the time, it was just really good. And I think it was right when the vinyl heavy thing was really picking up.
That's what I was just about to say, is I was right at the dawn of when it changed to vinyl's cool now. Vinyl's cool again.
Yep. I remember I went to Pirates Press.
We'll buy it.
I went to meet the people at Pirates, and they were showing me some of the records that they'd done. They were like, yeah, you can have a couple samples. And one of the ones that they'd done, I think, was the Torch record. You remember that Torch 10-inch?
Oh, yeah.
That had the CD in it.
Yeah. I can picture the artwork. I can't think of the name of it right now, but I have it upstairs.
Yeah, was it just? Well, anyway, it's my favorite Torch record. It's
great.
Yeah. And it was beautiful. And, that was right when that stuff was happening. Baroness was doing these really beautiful, etchings along the outsides and stuff like that. All these really cool looking vinyl things. Sorry, this is not much about recording that record. I don't remember shit about recording it. We just set up and played.
What was Turk Taylor and Jones one of the first songs, or was it one of the first songs that you kind of could tell, oh, this is cool,
I think that
this
was
is special?
I don't think anything ever felt special. It just felt like,
doing the work,
playing music.
Okay.
But I think that was the first song that we wrote, and it was probably the first song that we recorded also. There might have been one other that we wrote before that. Yeah, those first two records came out of our hands pretty quickly. You know how it is, when you start a band, you get all the stuff that's on your fingertips you get to use. And I feel like gambling was sort of like a continuation of Turk Street almost. It came out, I think, a year later.
It was almost exactly a year, if I remember correctly. It was real quick.
Yeah, so we wrote that quickly, and I can't remember much about recording it. What happened was we got a nice review from Aquarius Records of the 10-inch, and Paul Hansbarger, who ran a label called the Perpetual Motion Machine, who was in Richmond at the time, Virginia, read it and hit us up and was like, hey, I just read this review. This sounds right up my alley. If you ever want to do something, let me know. And so my plan was always release everything ourselves, but I think Andy was like, dude, labels are fine. Don't, it's okay. So we talked to Paul, and in the end, he put out Gambling, and that was great. But I don't remember much about recording it, honestly. I think it was the same kind of deal. One thing I do remember, you were never in our space in Turk Street, were you?
Yeah, I don't remember why, but I was.
I think most of the Bay Area was at some point or another, probably. It was downstairs.
Buying or selling an amp or something. I don't know. I was there for some reason, because I remember being like, oh, when I realized that Turk, Taylor, and Jones was like, it's here.
Yeah,
right.
That's the directions.
Yeah, that's how you get here.
Itself was, it was like in this sort of like really ill-maintained building.
Why was I there? I don't remember. Doesn't matter.
But a lot of bands played there too. There's 3 floors of spaces there, and but so our space was big. Like, I don't remember the square footage, but it was big. There were regularly like 6 or 8 bands practicing in there. There was always at least 4 drum kits set up.
Yeah.
And, it was just big. Like, It wasn't that big. Like, we were packed in, but, the average space, that would be a big lift.
Right.
So the thing I remember about Gambling is that we had to, I think I counted, we had to pull out and then bring back in and rearrange. I think it was 18 4x12s. It's like,
wow.
Big, stupid Legos. So we used them as like soundproofing, like his gobos.
Yeah. Make yourself a little labyrinth while you're at it. Why not? Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone, like, I have a picture somewhere of it, like of each of us standing, it looks like we're in like a studio, but instead of gobos, there's like amps, walls of amps around us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But same thing, we did that all live. Maybe I was a little smarter about the mics and stuff, but not much. And banged out the vocals pretty fast with poor Jason, like, sitting next to me, coaching me a little bit, because I basically barely sang and barely played guitar at that point. And I don't know, it was a long time ago, but I feel like we just banged it out very quickly and very crudely, and the goal was to try and make it, this was a little bit shallow North Dakota influence, was like, this thing can just sound fucking blown out,
Yeah.
Like,
and be okay with like that being part of the thing that it's
absolutely.
It is. Yeah.
And that was what we did. I handed a very blown out mix to my friend who mastered it, and a clean version. He basically tried to make a mastered version that was as fucked up.
Well, it's an aggressive sounding record, but it's the kind of thing that, if you're looking for that kind of thing, it's like, this is an extreme example, but like Raw Power or something, right? Especially the Iggy remix, especially, but like the fact that I respected the fact that it's like, wow, that is fucking absurd, but props.
Yeah. And in hindsight, I don't think Gambling actually sounds absurd.
No, not at all. It sounds aggressive.
Like, we're lighting this up pretty good, but
yeah. It sounds aggressive. It doesn't sound absurd for sure, but it's something that it kind of encapsulates a certain mood, and like it presents the songs in such a way that it forces the attention, is how I put it.
Indeed.
Indeed, yes.
Takes the listener on a journey.
Takes the listener on. Well, and then I think back to you kind of having the original conceit of the band and the bands that you mentioned. I always thought was and I didn't get it for a long time, but like the whole like we're not going to do the blues based heavy thing. I thought that was real interesting and kind of like I never even thought about that. And for the longest time,
it was because we were getting, there was a big like stoner, metal thing happening at the same time, which was all real like kind of riff based and like sort of swingy and shuffly and sort of bluesy, like in the patterns that you would play and stuff. And I wanted to, oh shit, hang on. My screensaver just turned on. I'm trying to record us. Wow. And I wanted to be none of that. I wanted to be stiff and straight where other bands would swing and more sort of angular and whatever. And it was for some of the stuff that we were doing, we had to tell ourselves that, because the natural thing you'd want to hear is something that's more like Sabbath-y.
Yeah, right. Have a like swinging kind of bit to the riff or whatever, or even like small things to it. Whereas you almost had a tendency to go more, I guess, what would typically be called noise rock on some of it, where it's like it's the purposely angular here or whatever.
Yeah.
But not,
yeah, and I think for me that was sort of novel because I did not grow up listening to a lot of Fugazi or Shellac or Big Black, or I was aware of all that stuff, but I listened to mostly metal. And it was only when I got older I realized, like, that all the things I just listed grabbed me in a lot of ways that it didn't when I was younger. So I think for some people, like you probably, or Ben, who grew up listening to like weird, skronky, Albini rock, like that stuff is a natural influence. But for me, I had to kind of find it a different way. And Jeff was like a rocker also, like, but you just don't bend notes and don't play like the little box patterns and
the way the box pattern, which are very pleasing to play. Don't get me wrong, and can come to great results. But it was something that I was never able to quite put my finger on about you guys until I think I don't even know if you were talking to me. I think you were talking to someone else. I overheard you, and I was like, huh. And it made me think about it. And I was like, no, that's interesting, because that is kind of what makes the music sort of unique. And now I feel like there are more bands that kind of operate in that middle ground, maybe in their own ways. So it's like less weird. But again, you got to talk. This is like 12 years ago, right? So
yeah. And I don't.
A lot changes in 12
years. Really, for us, when it really clicked, and Jason is awesome, and I loved playing in a band with him, but he moved away. He was ready for a break after gambling, and John Howell joined the band, and he was in Tygon.
Yep.
And Tygon was fucking out, dude. Just bonkers. What a great band. John comes from a lot of Fugazi and Unwound, and he can't play like a blues thing to save his life. Like,
it's not in his nature. Sure.
Exactly. It is definitely not. It's amazing. So I think when he joined and we wrote Container Ships, that was when like a lot of that stuff really clicked. And I learned a lot, for better or worse, about guitar playing from John. He's been very patient with me, and a really awesome, inspiration and influence, because he's such an interesting guitar player. I mean, I see a lot of guitar players, now as a recording engineer, and there's very few people I see that are. John Howell is his own thing.
He's unique. He's got his own style. Yeah, and I guess that is a bit of a rarity, isn't it? I mean, like, if you stop and think about it.
Yeah, I mean, the saying that I always say is like every band needs one mutant, and John is definitely our mutant for sure.
That got me thinking if I'm the mutant. I think I might be the mutant. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah,
but that's the X factor that makes something brings out the draws out the contrast. I think that's the phrase I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, they say that to do something creative, what do you need to take like an established formula and change two things or something like that. Like, and so that's the that's what the mutant does, right? Like,
can you speak a little bit about the three-way split, the lose? I think that was like right after Gambit, if I remember correctly. My time.
I think you're right. Fucked up there. So what happened was I recorded Tygon at Sharkbite, and then we played a couple shows with Fight Amp, and one of them was this house show out in Sacramento somewhere, and it was like in a kid's garage, and it was raining and they were sick and we were just standing outside, like sort of miserable together. But they played great. We played fine. People bought records. Like, it was a cool, fun, positive experience, even though it was like, wow, we were standing here getting rained on in the mud together. And we just got along great with those guys.
Well, that's bonding in a way too, you know?
Yeah. So they asked us to do a split with them in this band Ladder Devils that was also from Philly. And I had already recorded Tygon at Sharkbite, and I was like, if I'm remembering the timing right, or maybe this was before Tygon. No, well, I don't know, one of the two. But the plan was to record these songs at Sharkbite. So we kind of knew that, and we wrote songs that had a little more space in them, and said, you know, like, hey, I think these will sound good in a bigger room. And we tracked in like one day. You know, Ryan helped me out, Sharkbite Ryan. And I think we did the vocals there too, and then I mixed it at home. And to me, those songs could just about be on container ships. Like, they kind of represent, you know, the bridge between those two records to me.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it, because I feel like if someone were just to know those two records, like, oh wait, this is the connective tissue.
Yeah,
it's this one. It's these two songs.
Also, that one Ladder Devil song that's on there is mwah. It is. They did. I don't remember how many records they did, but that, to me, that, what is it called? It's the one that's in 7. It is such a good song. Just incredible hook. Like,
that's the one on the split that
huge. Like.
That's the only one in the split that I'm like, I still don't know that much about those guys. Like, other than the split. So.
They barely toured, but they were in shit. Oh my God, I'm gonna forget it. Don't make me Google this. They were in a really gnarly, like, mathy, you know, not quite botch, but, you know, like that
kind of.
Yeah, what was the name of that band? God damn it. I'm so bad at name dropping, but they had done a thing before that when it comes to me, I'll text you and you'll be like, oh, I've heard this.
Yeah. And also, sometimes it's nice to leave something for listeners. Let us know. What was it?
Yeah, that's homework. But yeah, I think Ladder Devils was like their grown-up band a little bit. So yeah, that split Brutal Panda put out, and that's how we met them. And then they ended up putting out Container Ships, and that's been sold out, you know, and out of print forever. And I wish they would repress it, but we can't seem to talk them into it. So
yeah, that's a record that, you know, it kind of seems like there's, you know, some people, everyone has their favorites for what you guys have done, but for me, that's the one I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. And one of the reasons why is I feel like the sort of the space that you guys added on some of the stuff kind of just allowed you more room to kind of do some more interesting stuff. Not that wasn't happening before, but like when you have like the sort of tightly compacted early stuff, like to see it kind of think about even like, you know, like the title track, right? Like that, it's like, you know, it's like, man, that one goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that split was like the unlock for us for that, to figure out that we could do that kind of thing. And, you know, maybe I could sing a little differently, which was important because I was having all kinds of throat problems.
Yeah, I mean, shocking exactly no one.
Yeah, no, when I hear that stuff now, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
It's the thought occurred to me when I would see you guys play back then, like, wow, he's going to be destroying his throat if he continues singing that way. But, you know, look at Hetfield. Like, he did it for like forever, you know, and like, it's
Yeah, I mean, my favorite example is Neurosis. Like,
Yes,
those guys do not warm up,
blows my mind. Yeah, like it's like
They
wow,
just- and their shows are 2 hours,
right
2.5 hours long. They can just do that. Their technique, is spot on. And mine never was. Mine was always terrible. And you were right. I was absolutely fucking wrecking my throat.
Yeah.
So,
like literally,
yeah, that's-
do damage to yourself, like long-term damage if you continue doing that for forever.
Yeah, no, I mean, I did. I ended up at the UCSF Voice and Swallowing Center, and having scopes down my throat and all kinds of stuff.
Like, how do you describe in that situation, like why you're there? Like, just like, oh, I sing in a band.
Yeah,
it's pretty aggressive.
Yeah, the people each time the people that I've seen were either vocalists themselves or
really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, the first woman who I saw was like an opera singer and coach, very much, and she was, I think, horrified by me.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure,
because she had spent her whole lifetime really learning to like control the voice as an instrument. Someone like me I have very little control over that, and it's especially at that time, she just did not get
you're
it.
doing like the shotgun full of buckshot approach, right?
Like, what do you mean you can't this? And I was like, I don't know, I can't do that. Like, but and the people the doctor that I saw after that, she did a lot of singers. Like would get called in when she's like, I can't tell you the client's name, but I have been at I don't know, the Enormodome or whatever, when someone was going to play and I had to make a call on if they could cancel the show or not. So she had done that. So basically just play them a song and be like, that's me. And they go, oh boy. And off you go.
Watch them kind of flinch, and then whatever happens next is the important thing. The
one doctor was really at UCSF. She was really wonderful. She was really bright, and she is the woman who said to me, you don't have cancer, so we're just gonna work from there. And that's
is that where the song title came from? Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. And I when we finished that record, I went back and I gave her that CD. I was like, hey, here, you said this. And I think she appreciated that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But that's a lifelong thing. Like, I still have throat problems and I've got to be careful about it. It's not great.
It's real, man. That's real.
Yeah.
So then, wait, I'm forgetting there's the split 7-inch too. That was right before that, right? Is that right? Is that before Container Ships? No, it's right after it. I'm wrong.
Which we did a few. There was the one that we did with Thou, which we mentioned.
The one you didn't mention.
And there's one we did with Batilis.
But yes, I was gonna say B band.
Yes, who we toured with. We did a couple weeks on the East Coast with. They became, good friends, and they were a really rad band. Like, when we started touring with them, I thought they were just like one of the sort of current crop of like loud, wall of amp doom bands. Yeah. And after seeing them every night for 2 weeks, I realized they were way more interesting than that.
There was some depth to it. There was some something there. So some there.
Yes. Instrumentally, they were mostly a 3-piece. There was only one guitar player. He was a really interesting, weird guitar player. He was definitely their mutant. And, the drum parts were intentionally really stripped down and thoughtful, and the songs were really hooky. And so anyway, much better band than I originally realized. And we wanted to do a split with them, and they were on tour out here, I think, and we recorded. They wanted to do a Godflesh song. No, they wanted to do a Ministry song. Sorry. And That's right. We were playing this Godflesh cover with them on tour.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. So like
Yeah.
kind of a man jam sort of situation.
Yeah, well, Fade, their singer, would come and sing.
Yeah.
Because he's like a very, like, you know, Al Jorgensen sounding kind of like, you know, like gnarly industrial dude. That's his, that, you know, he brought like, he made them like, he was like an industrial vocalist in this doom band, which was also part of their weird trip. So he was the perfect vocalist to sing this Godflesh thing. And so we decided they would do this Ministry song and I would sing it. And
so you switch the vocal. Okay, that makes sense now. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
What was
it
it,
was all
Lava,
recorded.
right? I think is the, because I mean, I'm not gonna front. I used to like Ministry quite a lot, like back in the day. You know, like
the record before, you know, In Case You Didn't Feel Like Showing Up, the live one.
Yeah.
Fucking A, dude. Yeah. I don't care what anyone who lives in Chicago says. That shit's awesome.
I'm endlessly thankful to Ray Washam for telling some great stories while being just the most stand-up, I absolutely will not talk trash dude ever. And like, but leaving just enough room in the stories. Yeah. You know what's
Dude,
up there.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, Lava.
It was interesting to me that they wanted to cover a song off of Filth Pig, because to me that is not canon Ministry, you know, like but those guys are younger than me, and their
right.
You know, their sense of canon might be a little different. And Filth Pig is a rad record. Like, it is crazy sounding and the songs are crazy, but it was just, I don't know. It was like,
I like that song, another song, and the Bob Dylan cover. Those are the three songs I
Bob
really
Dylan
like.
Cover.
But I haven't listened to it in forever. I own that on. I worked at Tower when that came out, and I think I have it on cassette somewhere still. And I remember just being like, "Nope,
this ain't it." Yeah,
this ain't it. And I mean, I loved, Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste, Land of Rape and Honey, even Psalm 69, like relentless, you know, just like ridiculousness, but like great. And yeah, when Filth Pig came out, I was like,
Right. So if you were going to do a Ministry cover, you probably wouldn't pick a song from
Would
Filth
not
Pig.
pick something out Filth Pig now.
But there we were. And it came out awesome. Like, we, you know, Jeff set up his drums for that. I remember his drums were kick, snare, hat, I think. Maybe one ride. I'm like, yeah, let me know when you're done setting up the drums. He's like, oh, I'm done. And, you know, he straight up fucking beats the whole time. It was really cool. I got to like, just, you know, make like sort of loopy sounds to make like industrial it out, but all with organic sounds that we recorded that day. And it came out awesome. Sold like shit. No one bought that.
Well, first of all, 7-inch, and 7 inches are for the people that they're for, and like you just have to reconcile yourself for that.
I'm not mad. It's just kind of funny. It was fun to do, and I love the way it came out. So
I mean, I just think it's kind of, you know, I think it's kind of interesting. Like, it's sort of, you don't see that, like, hey, the singer's gonna sing for the other band for this, and you know, like, and it was sort of like, oh, Godflesh and Ministry, that kind of makes sense for both those bands too. Right on.
Shallow, North Dakota, and Kittens. Do you know Kittens?
Kittens. I don't think I know Kittens. No.
Oh, I'm gonna send you a record when we get off.
Okay.
Yeah, The Bazooka and the Hustler is the name of the record I'm gonna send you. It is fucking amazing. You will love it. It is amazing. And they played a lot of shows together back in the day. Just another great Canadian, unheard of noise rock band.
Yeah.
And they did a split where they actually covered each other's songs.
Nice. I like that too.
Yeah.
I guess I'm of that certain age. I always have a soft spot for those kind of motifed singles, and that's a classic one, like the classic joint of, hey, it's so and so playing this song and the other band's playing that song, and
if you're gonna do a split, it's cool for it to have like a little thing. So that was that, and I think that's all the splits we've done. Not many.
And then I want to say, I guess, you know, I have the internet. I could have looked it up, but when you came on last time, I want to say it was like right about when Grievances came out. Like it was like maybe shortly after it. Like it was still pretty new, if I remember.
Oh wow!
It was you and Johnny.
Possible. It was a while.
I mean, it was. We're talking a while ago. I mean, this show shocks me how long I've been doing this, especially you know, considering. I still have technical problems, but The struggle is real.
Yeah, I mean, that was 2015. It's been a minute.
Yeah, that track, because I think that I started the show in like 2014. So that would make sense.
Yeah.
And that's one that that's the first one I can think of that's like, oh, that song kind of sounds a little like unwoundy there. Like that song's a little bit like, and not in a way that's like a rip off or like, oh, they're doing a thing there, just in a way that like the sound had sort of moved in a certain direction in the space, it opened up in certain ways to do those sorts of things. I mean, can you tell us about recording that record? And
that record, as I remember, and again, this was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. I didn't realize it was that long ago until I looked at the screen. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, that one was hard to write, as I recall. I don't remember why. John might remember why, but I just remember that it was a lot of work. We threw away a lot of stuff. I was really just pushing back on a lot of things and trying to get them just so, but I didn't know what just so was. And it was hard. I was a little bit out of my ability, I think. Jeff was kind of like burnt, I think, on the real slow thing. He really wanted to rock more, even though he's great at it.
He's got a talent for it, even if it's burnt out to do
drummer,
it.
and the stuff he played was great. But I think a lot of this stuff, you'd play it and it was hard for him to come up with ideas for it. And that was very frustrating for him. I think it made him kind of, angry, and he'd be like, I don't think the song, I don't think the song has much to it, kind of thing. And I think it was just because he was shutting down because it was hard. Some of that stuff we worked through. Sometimes I would go back and I would come up with like some beat ideas to start with. And in the end it worked out. Like, I'm really proud of that record and the songs on it. But it was definitely a grind writing it. And I wish I could remember more about recording any of these. That one we gave ourselves an extra day or two, I think. So we probably had 4 or 5 days in Sharkbite. Every one of these records we've tracked live together. And I've engineered all of them. So, I had a laptop like next to me in the live room at Sharkbite, like remote desktoping to drive Pro Tools in the control room.
Right. Talking about software people use, right? Was that what you said? Can't remember what it was. I'm usually better at callbacks. It's late. Sorry.
It's just nice to not have anyone else there. I'm sorry for everyone like who's not us that has to have some other jerk like me in their recording session, but I've never experienced that. Like it's always just us.
I mean, do you feel like there's like a Heisenberg effect of, the act of observing something changing it in some cases? Is that too heady of a question?
Well, I do think that the energy of a person who is not in the band definitely has cast like ripples in the room. And you never know if the engineer is going to be the kind of person that is a positive or a negative like resonance with the band. So hopefully the worst you can do is be transparent and not a negative effect. And so for us, that's just not a factor. No one's going to get weird because someone that is a friend of ours is engineering and is watching us make mistakes or something like that.
Right. The machine that grinds on is a machine that consists exclusively of the people within the machine.
Yeah, I guess so. And, to some degree for me, I have certain ways of making certain engineering things work that I don't want to have to explain to someone else, and I don't want to trust fall into someone else. So if it's like, look, I know that we can do the bridge of this song better and splice it in or something like that. Like, it's easier for me to do that than watch someone else do it and not do it the way I would. And the same thing for recording my own vocals. Like, I don't enjoy it, but I'm very efficient at it, and I know that like I don't have to worry about communicating with an engineer. And you've been recorded plenty as a singer. It's hard.
Yeah,
it is.
It's still my least favorite thing, dude.
It's awful, and it's like walking with someone else's legs. You know,
Yeah.
like it's like, and I don't have to do that when I record myself. You know, like I can walk with my own legs. So for us, I think that's the thing. But Grievances, it really, we all stood in a room and we recorded it together for a few days. We picked out the good takes. Then John and I did a day of overdubs to, like, oh, well, here's John's lead thing, or here's a sparkly guitar under this dirty arpeggio just to make the notes pop out. Little shit like that. No big deal. And I did the vocals by myself here, I think, and, mixed it really fast. Our records are always really easy to mix. Here's the one thing that I remember about that record, was when we set up for like guitar overdub day, and so I put like I like to put like a 5 or 6 amps or whatever in the live room and have them all plugged up and ready to go. And then it's easy to be like, does this sound the way we want? Nah, how about this? There's a mic on each, and it's just real easy to
just move between the different sounds.
There's no more. There's no like, hold on, let's get another amp.
Oh, grab the park. I think there's a speaker cable over there.
Right. Yeah. There's none of that. Like you take the hit up front, and then you like have a little wall of amps set up. So we did that. It's a little bit of slow motion while you're doing that shit, and we did the first solo we did was for the song Backlit, and the first take, we didn't know we were like did a test pass basically, like let's see if the tone's okay, and if whatever,
just try this out, take it for a test drive.
And just make sure the levels are right and whatever, and the headphones are good, and that's the solo that's on the record. Like John played it, and we're all in the control room just looking at each other like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's just so beautiful, and everything about it, like it was just, that was one of those moments, that like is why you want to record music. It was just,
because it's not that you could not have reproduced it, but it is a captured moment in time where you're like, that's the thing, that's it.
And they're move on, like that was and first of all, I'll pick
We've already made the sale. Stop talking.
Stop feeling you hit oil.
Right, exactly. Like, I mean, and recognizing that too, which I think that takes a certain clarity of purpose as well as a certain amount of self-awareness. Also,
for sure.
Right.
And John, in his case, he pre-writes stuff, and is knows what he wants to do, and he's usually pretty good about being like, that I did it, that's it. But I don't know, that was one of those like hairs stand up on the back of your neck kind of moments.
Yeah,
it was
really cool.
It was really, really nice. And that record, years later when I hear it now, I'm like, this I still feel not. I usually don't like any of my previous work. I don't know if you're like this, but it's hard. Like I'll listen to it, but I'll pick it apart. And that one I still like.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice thing. I feel like I used to be like that big time, and I feel like that's something I had to aggressively not become like. Is just being okay with like, no, that's what that is, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what that is. So instead of being like, wow, if only we had done this or changed that or whatever. If only this.
That's, you're saying that's the way you were years ago.
Oh yeah.
Much harder on yourself.
Oh yeah. Like total asshole, frankly. But like, I don't know. I sort of changed my notions about recording and realized I was overthinking almost everything.
Oh, okay.
for a really long time, and I was like, oh, okay. So I'll just let all that go. Okay, cool. And it was incredibly freeing. I think it made me better personally. But
I think we all grew up, people of our rough age, and but even people are younger, I think probably grew up, where recording was hard. you know, like it was hard to get a good take, and it was hard to sing right, and it was hard to play the whole song all the way through, and it was hard to get good sounds, and you spent 5 hours moving a microphone to try and make the snare right and never did. And
right.
So it's easy to decide when you're young that that's what recording is.
Yeah.
And I say this to bands now. I'm like, look, dude, this does not have to be hard. Like you actually grew out of that. Like you're working in a great sounding room. We have good gear. I know how to use it. Like you guys know how to
everyone knows how to play well.
Good when you play them.
Yeah.
Like all we got to do is set up the fucking mics and record a couple of passes. It just doesn't have to hurt, you know? And so it's nice that you were able to realize that, because a lot of people don't, you know, and they'll want it, like, we should do it once more, and maybe just once more, just in case.
Yeah, you know, it's
just
fine.
In case
it's
what?
Good. Just in case, yeah, exactly. Just in case what is the correct reaction to that?
Yeah, just in case you play it good again. Like, what are we, you know, like.
Just in case there's still some joy in the playing and you want to make it like totally tirelessly terrible. Yeah.
Well, it's nice to hear that you had that healthy moment. I think that's.
I mean, it honestly, I kid you not, it's one of the great epiphanies of my life, and I don't take it like lightly at all. But it's just like, oh, okay. So
it kind of is what it is.
So most of my adult life, I was kind of doing that wrong. All right, well, that's good to know. Okay.
Well, but I think also, to be fair to you, there, you were rehearsing to get to this point.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you know, you learn all this stuff so you can forget it, but you did have to go through that process.
You have to knock yourself through a couple brick walls. and learn how to do it that way before you can unlearn it.
Yeah. And again, I think you're lucky to have had that little self epiphany, because not everyone does. You know, I have lots of bands that are like, you know, oh, I just don't know if that takes it. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, you're hiring me to tell you that takes it, and that takes it. You know,
I'm telling you that is the take.
Yeah.
Can that be a challenge sometimes? Do you feel like you have to like find ways to like almost euphemize it, or to like you know, even just like re-articulate yourself in a way, or you're just like, I'm telling you that's it, it's fine, like it's good?
I am not even though
this is the classic engineer producer thing, by the way, is what we're glancing up against.
This might be surprising, but I'm not an asshole, I think, in sessions. I'm there to make your record, and if you really want to sing that again, you know, I'll tell you that we're going to run out of time. I'll tell you that we're going to have to book, you know, I'll tell you the implications of it. And, you know, but for whatever reason, I'm rarely confident enough to be like, no, you may not do that again. You know, I feel like, like every recording engineer that, you know, if you read an interview, they're all recording engineers because they had a session with that one fucking guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like the total dictatorial jerk.
He's like the stereotypical asshole engineer who told him no and wouldn't let him do this and whatever. And so, you know, for me, I'm very I don't even need to be that conscious of it, but it's in the back of my head once in a while. Like, you never want to be that person. You want to be the person that facilitated these people doing what they want to do.
Have you had to pay witness at all to a band like not able to get out of their own way before? You don't have to name any names or anything along those lines, but just like that concept of, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have recorded a bunch of bands, and I can't think of anyone to name off the top of my head, but I would. I don't think they would be mad about it, who make it harder for themselves than it need to be. But sometimes it's a fine line. Like the pinnacle of my recording life to date was I went to Denmark a couple of years ago to record Town Portal in the studio.
Oh yeah,
Copenhagen.
I totally slipped my mind to talk about that. I want to talk about that. Thank you.
Amazing band, amazing studio, the greatest experience of my life. You know, like if the plane flew into the Atlantic on the way home, like so be it. But it was interesting because we prepared a lot. The studio was amazing. They had an incredible mic collection. And we set up a bunch of mics, and I was like, all right, let's go. And Christian, the guitar player in the band, is also a recording engineer, a good recording engineer. And he's much more, he's a little younger than me, and he's just, I think he may have slightly better ears than me, and he's just more cautious. He's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, let's go, you know?
Right, yeah.
And
wheels up, let's do this.
yeah, totally. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, you know, Jesus isn't going to appear above the console and be like, press record now.
Exactly. Yeah.
In this metaphor, I am Jesus. So
we appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Yeah. So, but the funny part is, I think that actually worked out to be like a nice balance. There were places where I was like, Christian, you are fucking killing me here. Like, we do not need to take this song again, but we will, you know, like, like I trust that you have very good ears, and, you know, let's do it, you know, but like, you're sort of killing me here. But there were other things where he said, like, for instance, a great example is he was like, hey, what if we put up one more set of room mics? I just had, it was this big, long room, and I just put mics way at the end of the room because I knew they wanted like big, you know.
Yeah, get a big sound out of it, sure.
Enormous room sound. And I was like, I don't think we need to do that. You know, let's go. And he was like, no, I really like, and, you know,
but what if we did
from the other side of the world, and God bless him, he was still like, I really think we should do that. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And that was really smart. Those mics were really important in the actual sound of the record. So, you know, like in the end, I think the push and pull, and I came away learning some stuff from that, which is to maybe not be so quick. And I think, you know, for us, it was, and we were respectful the whole time, but it was a good, so I, you know, there were times during that session where, yes, he was making it harder than maybe it needed to be. But I also understand that record was a big deal for them.
Yeah.
You know, they practiced a lot. They'd flown this fucking dude out to record it. You know, they'd always recorded themselves previously in their practice.
And it's a big step to even have someone else involved in the process when you've done that.
Yes.
Trust. There's trust involved.
Yeah. And, you know, if the dude just like kicks his feet up on the console, it's like, it sounds great, let's go. It might be like, whoa, hey.
Yeah. Can you? I need to make sure that you're not taking this too flippantly here.
Yes, for real. But the funny part is they are such a good band, and I mean, there's just nothing working against us there. Amazing band, like amazing studio, fucking like museum quality mic collection.
Yeah.
Like basically the studio, they had bought out a Danish public broadcasting.
Oh, wow. Really? That's awesome.
Or something like that. They had like 40 meticulously maintained tube Neumanns, you know, all just like sitting out on stands ready to go. They had 2 Neve sidecar consoles that worked perfectly. The place was incredible. You know, and a really great sounding live room. So it's like if you make a bad sounding record there, you with those, you know, you're fucking up. Like,
yeah, you're probably trying. You're probably trying to.
Yeah, I mean, you would have had to work at it. Like, so that, you know, it came out great in the end.
That reminds me of the that 2-song deal that you did with those guys. Those the Solange song and the other one.
What was the other one? Oh, the Khaki King song.
Yeah, the Khaki King song. Yeah, totally.
Do you know that Khaki King record?
Okay. I think I listened to it after I heard you guys' version of it, but I must confess I was not familiar beforehand.
She usually gets, I think, thought of as like a sort of an acoustic guitar-ish version of a shredder.
Yeah.
You know, you'd see her name in like guitar magazines a lot and stuff like that. And none of that material ever really grabbed me that much. But this one record of hers, it's called Until We Felt Red. She sings on it, and it's got like just kind of like saucy drumming on it, like real pocket, like, you know, natural sounding. It is, and these very like twee vocals. Just a top 10 record for me. Just really beautiful, and and I just come back to it over and over and over again. You know, covering something like that is fraught with
peril.
Yeah, you know, like we're just a bunch of gorillas, you know, and it's like this really like
yeah,
you know, really beautiful song played by a virtuoso guitar player and stuff. You know, for that matter, covering a Solange song is like, what are you doing?
I was just gonna say it's not like the other song is like the easy get. I mean, like,
Yeah.
But respect. I mean, because you know, it's really easy to be like, hey, we're gonna do this Unsane song. Cool. You know,
right.
I love that. That's great. That would be perfect. But it's like, no, like that's crazy. But like, it's almost like for the listener, if you're familiar, like, did they land that? Let's find out. You know, like
yeah, we talked about doing that before this tour, and we were down to do it, and I think they suggested the Solange song first, and I think we were going to try doing a thing where we were all, I don't know, we had a bunch of different ideas that we were like, basically while we were still on tour, maybe we were flying, I don't know. It took us a long time to come up with a song, and finally that Jessica song, I was like, this one you can totally hear us doing, you know, like it's,
yeah.
And John was down, but I don't think we ever practiced it or arranged it or anything. Like, I'm pretty sure like the night before we were going to meet up with the Town Portal guys. So we're in like a hotel in Italy or something like that. I don't know. We're like, we really should just get our guitars out before we like go
just
to bed and figure this out.
Maybe like make some attempt at playing this before we attempt to record. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that, and you know, John and I have worked together enough now that we could do that, and came up with a really nice arrangement. We met up with the Town Portal guys the day before the filming, and with no drums or anything. We just like the guys in Ren, I think, had a friend with a house in the city that we were going to play in that day. And so we met up at this house and all sat down with our guitars, no drums or anything, and like worked out an arrangement together. And at some point Christian said, you know, these are in like the same key and basically at the same tempo, so we can do this. And the next day we did it, and it came out great. It was really fun and really cool. It was a total tour highlight.
It was a nice sort of left field thing coming from the outside of like, wait, what? That I appreciated that. I was like, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, thanks. You know,
how did that come to pass?
Forever to get it done. Like the guys who were doing the video edits or something. I don't remember. There was like a whole thing to get it mixed and done, but whatever. When we finally did release it, it was I think we released it after COVID.
I was gonna say it wasn't that long ago, and that tracks. That tracks.
Yeah.
Well, and
the tour was, God, what is years anyway? It was coming up on 2 years ago. Yeah. So it was like the tour was the summer before COVID, and we released the video. We finally got done with it after COVID. Yeah. Yeah. That was the Small Pond guys, which is they're a label and studio and practice space in England, and they are great dudes. They did awesome work. They have a bunch of other records that I really would recommend. The Bonnie Songs record that they put out a year or two ago is absolute, you know, weekly listen for me. I just love it.
Nice.
Yeah, a few others.
So speaking of quarantimes, I know you kind of made the plunge, big life adjustment, somewhat right before quarantimes launched, to kind of dive more into doing recording and to doing more of that kind of work and things along those lines, without realizing the entire world was about to change.
Yeah.
How's that been? How's the as an overarching thing, like what have the challenges been? Like what have there been any like kind of good sides to that? I mean, everyone's hurting right now, so
I don't remember. I think it was, I don't actually remember when I sort of like formally said like, hey, I'm gonna stop having a day job and be a recording person. but it wasn't that long before the plague hit. Up until then, honestly, it was going really well. Business was picking up. I was doing records that I was really stoked about. I traveled to a few different places to do really great records. One of them I recorded Harris in Seattle. That was great. Went to Electrical twice, which was, you know, a dream.
Yeah, that place is okay.
It's fine. And, you know, and a bunch of good records here. And, you know, like, it's been very hard for my wife and I to juggle our time with our kids, because she works very full time. But, you know, audio wise, it was rewarding and fun and seemed like, you know, yeah, going pretty good. Once COVID, basically, I recorded Strange Light right as COVID was starting. And that was still when it was like, oh, this is just a bad flu, right? Kind of thing. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. We might have to like suspend activities for a couple weeks. Yeah, I remember that very well.
Like, can I hug you? Yeah, I can probably hug you.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Like
fine.
that.
It's okay.
Shortly after that, we canceled all the sessions at Sharkbite. I canceled all my sessions. And basically, my studio and Sharkbite have been sitting idle since then. I had at that point a pretty big mix backlog. Of records that I had tracked and records that other people had tracked that they were sending me to mix. So I was able to spend a good part of the summer, you know, busy catching up on all that stuff. And then for me, as I got through that queue, you know, very little work came in after that. A handful of things. I have some friends who are engineers who had a lot, you know, that bands were recording themselves at home and wanted to put stuff out, and bands that were digging stuff out of their back catalog, whatever, you know. Yeah. But for me, that was not the case. Just different clients, I guess. I don't know. So it's been for the last, what is it now? February? I don't know. 6 months. Been pretty slow. And I've used that time to do some gear maintenance and
build some pedals.
Well, yeah, I basically finally taught myself some stuff about circuits, and really, God, just tortured a bunch of my friends who are electronics whizzes. You know, knowing Ben, who's like this sort of natural, like, Ben makes circuit stuff look really easy. Like, he just is able to think that way. My dad was like a ham radio nerd. You know, I mean, I grew up around this stuff. I soldered a lot when I was a kid, but I've never been able to really understand circuits. It's always been like embarrassing and frustrating for me. So basically, like, for a few weeks, I was just sitting there, like, while my kids were doing their remote school, I was like with electronics textbooks.
Doing your own remote school.
Yeah. And then finally I said, hey, maybe I can finally do a pedal of my own here. And the obvious one to start with is the one that Ben did for us a million years ago, that KWB.
The Kowloon Walled Bunny.
Yep, the Kowloon Walled Bunny, which is a great pedal. It's been. Do you have one? I can't remember. Yeah. Yeah,
and I have a Kowloon Walled Bunny, and then I have a prototype bunny drive, which didn't even have his logo on it. It says Neutron drive on it, pedal. And it was a like label tape.
Yeah,
like, because it was that early on.
Yeah. So and
mine says Neutron drive instead of bunny drive. That's it. That's the other distinguishing feature.
Got it. Right. That's a great pedal too. Yeah. So I, you know, learned again. I can't say taught myself, because I really basically just punished friends into teaching me how to.
But you know, they aren't up to anything else, so that's the nice thing about quarantine.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. These are busy friends, but they taught me how to do circuit board layout. And there's nothing cooler than like the UPS showing up and a fucking PC board that you designed,
like a PCB,
physically holding it. It is the coolest thing ever. Did a few rounds of those, and I built a run of 100 of those KWBs, sold through them like that. Learned what it's like to turn yourself into an assembly line again. You know, you've done this, right? Where you're shipping 7 inches and you're packaging them all or something like that.
Oh yeah. And
this is that. like a million times over. Like,
right. Like I think of it in terms of like, at first you're like, oh, cool, right on. And then you kind of get into the rhythm of it and it gets a little repetitive. And then you kind of like hit the Long Walk by Stephen King aspect of like, oh my God, I've never been doing anything but this.
Yeah.
And then you get excited about it again. And then you go back to being a slog. And then it's just like, yeah, it's the cycle, man.
It was like mid-COVID, you know, and to have something like that was required attention, but wasn't, you know, particularly like, it didn't require a lot of like intellectual attention.
Right. Because it isn't necessarily like something creative necessarily in the way that you're doing the work, but it's something that requires engagement.
Yeah. And
right?
there's a little bit of creativity as far as like figuring out good ways to make your assembly line efficient, which like I find really gratifying. Just like coming up with these little systems and building jigs and stuff like that. And that was all new for me. So that was also, you know, like you get that sweet spot of the learning curve where something's fast and satisfying. So yeah, for me, actually, like the tedium of stuffing 8 resistors 100 times and then, you know, and doing all it was wonderful. It was like,
you find some comfort in the repetition and
tedium.
Yeah.
Yes. I think technically, like, I shouldn't be doing that. I should be farming that out to a friend who's a great assembly person. And, you know, like my money should be invested in coming up with other pedal designs and stuff like that. But honestly, I really enjoyed it. And for me, it's great to, like, if I do that next time I do some pedals, like I learned a lot. And I think even someone who's done a lot of pedals before, there are things I could bring to her where I'm like, look, here's an easy way to make that consistent.
Did you think about things like jack placement and like logistical concerns and things like along those lines?
Yeah, you have to think of, you know, like when you're doing circuit board layout, it's, as a software person, I'm used to being like, I can think about that later.
Right.
And
it's got to be like from the jump when you're doing hardware, though.
That's right. Like, you know, like when you're designing the circuit board, you got to be like, well, where's the power going to get connected, and how's it going to fit in the pedal, and like, you know, so you have to think about all these things at once while you're also being like, is the schematic right? And that's been an ongoing, you know, lesson for me. Like the things that are important in hardware and in electronic circuits and their priorities are different than with software. Software, you can fix tons of shit later.
Right. Software is about the only place you can actually fix it in post.
Yeah, but like, well, in audio too, you can be like, well, this isn't perfect, but it's fine. But you know, like with the circuit, like
can't install a patch for a pedal. Well, usually,
like the holes are where you drilled them. You know,
exactly. The horse has left the barn at this point, you know.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny and has definitely taken some getting used to, but it is pretty cool to look over and be like, there's 100 of the exact same thing that I all built by hand. Like that's, for me, like, you know, it's the same as looking at the pile of tapes that you packed or, you know, shirts that you, whatever. It's like, there's something very cool about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's been cool seeing you do it. Like the last thing I need is more freaking pedals. That's why I didn't order one, but because I was like, can I justify doing this? Like, if I got rid of one, maybe. I'm like, well, which one would I get rid of? Like, and this is a me problem. I have the same thing with t-shirts. Like,
this is
it's
not
like
a
Sophie's
problem.
choice.
This is a everyone. Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, like the world does not need any more distortion pedals, but like,
but I want you to know I gave strong consideration to doing it. So I'm like, well, if you're going to do it with this. Cause it's, you know, and I didn't, but like, I was like, you know, like the angel and the devil.
If you had asked me like, hey dude, should I buy this? I would have been like, don't buy this, Conan. Like, you know, you have the OG, you're good.
Well, I appreciate your discretion, but so sometimes some things you do just because it's like, oh, that's a cool thing to do. But it was like the combination of things that was like, I'm glad he's doing this, and I will like the fuck out of all the posts and like even repost them. But I'm probably not going to buy one, I don't think. Or will I? No, I won't. Okay.
Yeah. I was surprised at the response. I think basically like a bunch of people have wanted the bend pedal forever, but he just made so few of them.
Yeah.
And the people who have them aren't getting rid of them. That
no one's selling that pedal because it's like, why would you? Yeah,
why would you? That, you know, like people have just heard about it forever, and you know, like pedals are they're half legend and half functionality anyway. So
Right, exactly.
You know.
Yeah. I know it's gonna make. I'm gonna be able to write the perfect record once I get this pedal.
yeah, or just you've been hearing
Very
about
cool.
it forever or whatever. But in fairness to that particular circuit, it is.
It's a crazy, weird, cool pedal, though. I mean, it is a weird pedal.
Yeah, it's very useful. It's just a good tool.
And there's something to be said for that. That said, if people, because believe it or not, Scott, a bunch of musicians listen to this show. So if people have stuff that they want mixed, can they get in touch with you about looking into that? And if would they go to antisleep.com? If
yes, they can find me on the internet. That's the best.
Because you do maintain your own website, which I appreciate, because so many people just don't anymore.
I don't maintain it very often, but
yeah. Okay, maintain may be charitable, but it exists. Yeah.
I have been thinking about doing some re-architecting of my web technology. If you want to talk about that, no one wants to talk about that. Yeah. So Anti-Sleep is the website, and or you can find me through our band's Instagram or which is Kowloon Walled, whatever. Like, it's hopefully not too hard to find me. I would love to talk to people about mixing records or building pedals or whatever. I just need friends.
Scott, this has been great, man. Thanks so much for doing it. It's been a joy to have you back.
It's really nice to talk to you, dude. And let me just, before we split here, just give another quick shout, because the reason we're talking, I think, is the split for Tony from Charlotte, North Dakota.
Yeah, bring it all back to the original beginning of this.
I'd just say, a quick thanks to anyone who's helped out that cause already. And if you hadn't heard about it until now, go look it up and consider buying a record. We'll have them for sale for a few more weeks, and then that'll be that. So,
yeah,
and 100% of the money is going to Tony and his family. So we're really, really appreciative. Also, you'll learn about a fucking amazing band if you didn't know about them.
Right, a great cause, and if you just like good music, you'll be happy for that.
You will have your
purchase
face just sheared clean off, so that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Last thing, Scott, it's the only canned question I ever ask people, and it's at the very end. You can choose to interpret this however you like, but why do you do what you do?
Holy shit. I don't know. Music has been my lifeline, I think, since I was a very young child, and it still is. And making things with my friends is got to be one of the top 2 or 3 gifts in life that I feel like I have. And it gets me out of bed in the morning and makes me feel good about myself, and gives me things to look forward to and to look forward to from other people. And I don't know if that's why I do it, I don't tell myself that stuff, but I think that's naturally why I am driven to do it.
Well, for one, I'm glad that you are.
Oh, thanks. Also, also all the money.
Right. Well, that goes without saying. I would think, yeah.
The prestige. Yeah.
The prestige. Scott Evans, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, dude. It's great talking to you.
Likewise.
See ya.
There he goes. Mr. Scott Evans. Your best years. All right, that was Turk, Taylor, and Jones off of the Turk Street EP, the very first Kowloon Walled City song and the very first Kowloon Walled City release. And then before that was the Kowloon Walled City song that is indeed a Shallow, North Dakota song, The Milkman, which is available on the Shallow, North Dakota Ken Mode Kowloon Walled City record that you can get right now. It's a charity record, KowloonWalledCity.bandcamp.com. I spent a lot of time talking about it. Ken Mode's on there. Shallow, North Dakota's on there as well. And before that was Your Best Years off of Grievances, which is the most recent. Cool. So and then before that we had Turk Street, Turk, Taylor, and Jones. That's first Kowloon Walled City song on the first Kowloon Walled City record. That's a good one.
Hear me now?
Classic modern American noise rock. So all those were records by Scott Evans and co. I'd like to thank him for being on the show once again. It won't be that long of a wait next time, but I'm glad I was able to get him on for the very awesome thing that is this compilation. So compilation / release / fundraiser, etc. You know what to do. You know what to do. Go get it. Go get it, boppers. If you want to talk to Scott about pedals or potentially have him mix your band, antisleep.com. That's the way to go. He's also on all the normal social media things. He's pretty approachable, I think. He likes to pretend he's not, but he's pretty approachable.
Signing off.
The name of the show.
Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea.
It's Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal.
Anyone within the sound of my voice.
Thank you for listening to me. The show airs on Radio Nope. RadioNope.com, usually Thursdays. 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific.
50,000 watts of power.
Archives at ProtonicReversal.com. Always free.
I want to ionize the air.
If you want episodes of the show sooner, Patreon.com/ProtonicReversal. $1 a month will get you there. No ads, no sponsors. No kidding.
This microphone turns sound into electricity.
Thanks to everyone sharing the episodes around and all that. That helps people find out about it.
Can you hear me now? Out on Route 128, you're dark and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Stay safe out there.
If you're the fifth caller, or any caller at all, welcome to my top 10. like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency, hey! This is a real goddamn emergency!